Hello, everyone, and welcome to our alumni interview with Dr. Jameson Mercier. He is an incredible man that is a mental health expert. He owns his own private practice for mental health counseling. He's a great family man, an outdoor enthusiast. He has several podcasts. So, without further ado, I'm going to bring on Dr. Mercier. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing right now?
Hi, Jill. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and Jill for having me. Um, right now, I guess to answer your question, I'm currently employed with the Veterans Administration, working with veterans and caregivers and their families, providing support. My official title is a senior social worker, caregiver support coordinator. And I've been doing that for a little while now, so I enjoy that. Separate from that, as you mentioned, my wife and I, we do run and operate a practice where I specialize with individuals, but couples, really, that's my cup of tea. My wife loves doing grief work, so she's rocking that scene. Um, we also have a couple podcasts, weekly podcasts that we host. Um, so Redefining Grief is her podcast, and I host one with a colleague called Relationship Renegade. So that's essentially looking at the relationships in our lives and how those dynamics influence us, not just for people who are married. I know when we hear couples and relationships, we tend to exclude single people because the idea is they're not in any relationships. But believe it or not, we're in many, many relationships all at the same time. And so understanding those dynamics help us navigate them that much better.
Wow, that's pretty good stuff, especially now. You must be super busy. And again, thank you for your time today. So why don't you start back in the day when you graduated, where you went to high school and how you ended up landing at Broward College, and then what influence that had to take you all the way up to getting your doctorate.
So I was born in Haiti, and I was there until I was 7. And then lived in South Florida my whole life. Um, Apart from college, I went up to Tampa area for a little bit. I went to high school down here in Central Broward at Ely High School. And so originally I thought I wanted to be a neurosurgeon, um, but the idea of the surgery didn't appeal to me very much. And when I actually, true story, I almost did not go to college, to tell you the truth.
Mm.
I had a professor who pulled me aside and said, even if you don't know yet, you should still go to college and figure it out, take your time. And so that was when I enrolled at Broward. Um, uh, because again, I was just planning to just kind of coast and maybe join the Navy as a backup plan. Um, but I joined Broward, and then I was there for a few years, just kind of figuring it out, which ended up being really formative for me. Um, because when you're in high school, you think you know what you want to do, you think you know what you want to be, but it isn't until you get exposure, right? You get exposed to some of the different options that are out there that you get a better sense. You still don't quite know what you want to do. Even now, we're talking like over 20 years later, I'm still figuring out new things that I want to do. So, but being at Broward did help to give me some direction. And I'm grateful for that every day.
So you went from Broward onto USF, onto Berry, and then onto Nova. So you really became quite the academician. Were there any professors or anyone at Broward that influenced you to end up becoming such a great student and professor of knowledge here?
Well, I had a professor in my intro to psych class, and I really thought I wanted to be a psychologist at the time, but then she mentioned the field of social work, which I'm a licensed clinical social worker now and have been for a while. And she said, just check it out. And so I looked into it and I went and visited some campuses within Florida and outside of Florida. And I ultimately realized that um, social work, it was much wider and deeper, in my opinion, right? This is just one man's opinion. It was better suited for me and my aspirations because I felt like I could work with much more varied populations and much different demographics versus just doing the counseling or the assessing that psychologists typically do. Not that they don't do more, but social work seemed a little more exciting to me. I'll just put it that way.
Okay. Well, I understand you did a quite a lot of outdoor adventure things. Did you have a favorite childhood toy that might have led you into doing some of these kinds of things that, something you enjoyed doing?
You know, so as a child, we so growing up in Haiti, the whole idea of toys, that's somewhat of a different concept. Not that we don't have toys, but I played outside a lot. And so I played on my grandparents' farm, played in the fields. I was in their banana plants, in the rivers with the cows. So I was outdoors. And if you've ever been to Haiti, Haiti is full of mountains and it's just mango trees, beaches. And so I think that's really where it stemmed from, not necessarily a toy. And when I came to South Florida, I kind of got away from that a little bit, um, because I mean, this is just a major city. It's not until later in my adult life that I've had some opportunities to just kind of be outdoors. Namely, one experience was the opportunity to shoot, be a contestant on a survival show for the Discovery Channel. Um,
Something special. Tell us
yeah, so
about
that was really cool. That came out of nowhere, and I grabbed that and ran with it. So 2 weeks in the Smoky Mountains, having to survive that um, with a knife and a canteen of water. So that was really fun. I enjoyed that.
Yes, that must have really given you good insight into people and behaviors and things along your career.
Oh, absolutely.
So, what was the best advice you were given? It sounds like you were looking for direction. If you wanted to give some advice to someone else, what's the best advice you were given?
Um, s- well, so I've gotten a lot of advice along the way. I think the the I guess the biggest thing is just make the next best decision. We often feel we have to know it from A to Z. And we do this to young people, especially high school and college kids, where we ask them what's their plan, what are you doing? And there's a lot of pressure of feeling like they have to have the answer to life at 18 and 19. And so when I think about what I was told, um, and I didn't get that advice early. I got it kind of late, I think, but just the next best decision, right? The next best question is just fine. You don't have to have all the answers. You just make the next best decision.
Wow, good. So, tell us something you're super excited about right now.
Ooh, um, I'm excited about a lot of things. So the practice is we're expanding in some ways, and we are incorporating some new ideas. Um, what else? What else? So season 3 of the podcast recently just launched, and season 2 of my wife's podcast, so redefining grief, with her Dean Mercier, as well as relationship renegade. um, so those two things keep me pretty busy. um, the outdoors is something that I try to stay in as much as possible. So I'm looking to incorporate more of that in my practice, um,
Beautiful.
especially especially considering all that's been happening lately. People do need to get a break and step outside of their element.
Right. And we will be hearing from your wife, who's also a Broward College alum. Did you two meet at Broward in the day or?
Yeah, yeah. So we met officially at Broward
Okay.
the year before we graduated, But strange story, and I guess when we have time, we can talk about that. We actually grew up around each other.
Oh, nice.
We just did not know it until, believe it or not, after we were married.
Oh, funny.
Yeah.
That
And so we met in French class officially at Broward, but we'd always moved in similar circles.
Wow, that's great. No, she's a dynamo. She'll be on a podcast as well or video here. So name something you're deeply grateful for with all that you've accomplished in your life.
Uh, so I am very aware of how fortunate I am. When I think back to some of the experiences I have, when I think back to the beginnings, my beginnings, um, being born in Haiti, and anytime people talk about Haiti, the first statistic is just the poorest and least educated country in the Western Hemisphere. But here I am today, sitting here, educated, business, family, and I've had many opportunities to do things that you know people will never have. And so I am deeply grateful for that. I am very um, fortunate to have done some of these things, and so I don't take that I don't take it for granted. You know.
That's great. That's great. So do you have any heroes, any people that you would recommend? Like who do you look up to? Who are your heroes?
Ooh, heroes. So this will sound a little cliche, but I look up to my parents. Um, Now, having said that, my father, he passed when I was 9. But in the short time that I had him in my life, I, I realized that there was such a big impact. Um, it isn't that when people they impact your life when they're present, but also their absence can leave tremendous marks on your life. And then my mother, who upon the death of my father, she I don't recall her ever complaining. I don't recall her ever doing anything but loving me, my sister, my brother, and doing whatever it took. And so I do look up to them for the sacrifices that they've made.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So you have children and you're very busy right now with your practice. What do you foresee for your future? What do you see happening?
Ooh, uh, well, so the kids are growing, and they take up a lot of our times now. Um, uh, we are we also have a few animals that run around here that keep us a little busy. Um, I'm looking forward to more, I guess more. I'm looking forward to more of these life experiences. I'm the kind of person that I plan to a certain point, but I embrace the adventure. Um, and that model has proven beneficial to me. So I just look forward to being healthy, staying safe, of course, given the climate of things. Um, but ultimately look forward to the adventure.
Right. Right. And I would encourage anyone also to connect with you on your social media. I know you're always posting really great quotes and sayings on it. What would you say is one of your favorite quotes you'd like to share with us today?
Oh, uh, so I've collected a bunch over the years. Um, it, it's just something to the effect, well, it's not about the destination, it's more about the journey, you know, and we get away from the process and the journey. We look to an endpoint and just focus on that. And we miss out on all the connections along the way. We miss out on the experiences along the way. So if any quote sticks with me, it's the idea that um, it's not so much about the destination, it's the journey. And I'll also add this. Um, I know Obama said it. I forget who the author is that he was quoting, but he said, "Today is the first day of the rest of your life." And I take that to heart, meaning you can always start over. And
Yeah.
so those two have really served me well.
Yes, yes. Well, we're certainly really thrilled that you're an alumni of Broward College and that you've been supportive. You've done our webinars for us. You've been a great leader. And when we go back on campus, we look forward to having you speak in person to some students because I think that they would love to shake your hand and really learn even more about you. So thank you so much for being with us. And we'll look forward to seeing you at our next event. So
Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you for
thank
having me.
you.
Thank you.